Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 60 for the 19th of Shevat in a leap year. And today we are continuing with chapter 23, where we've been discussing this idea of the mitzvahs being God's limbs. And so I want you to go back for a second to that example we gave last time. And you can always listen to yesterday's episode to catch up if you need to, where we discussed what happens when you want to get a glass of water and all the different processes that happen. So first you get up out of where you're sitting, you walk into the kitchen, you open the cupboard, you look for where the cup is, you look for where the water is, like all the steps that go into that. But what's really amazing about it, if you think about it, yes, we discussed how this actualization of your will, right? Like, so your will is to get this glass of water to quench your thirst. In order to actualize this well, you need all of these different limbs. You need your arms, you need your legs, you need your mouth, you need your eyes. All these different things are very, very necessary. But what's really amazing about it all is how immediate this process happens. So, this is like on a physiological level, these are your motor neurons are really what allows you to move and to get where you need to go, whether it's about moving your mouth to drink, whether it's about moving your legs to walk where you need to go. It's a very immediate process. So like, think about that for a second. So let's say if you say to yourself, I would like to take a step forward. Is there a pause between that? Not really, unless you're like, learning how to walk, obviously, when you're a little kid. But at this point, if you know how to walk already, the transition between thinking, I would like to take a step and actually taking that step is really, really instantaneous. And this is because that movement, those limbs that you have, this movement that you have is secondary to your will. And not only is it secondary, it's actually totally and 100% subservient. And it's really just a manifestation of your will. So in a certain sense, you can say that your limbs and your actions are nullified to your ultimate will. So going back to the example of you wanting to get water from the kitchen because you're thirsty. So yes, you're walking, you're moving your lips, you're doing all of these things, but really all of these functions, all of these movements that you're doing actually have no real meaning on their own, other than the fact that they are serving a certain purpose, which is to have you drink your water and quench your thirst. So what we're going to learn about in today's Tanya, and it's pretty short, is just focusing on how that works in terms of the mitzvahs. And once we understand that the mitzvahs, specifically the positive commandments, are thought of as the limbs of the king, then the limbs of Hashem. So then we can understand how these positive commandments are actually totally subservient and they're totally nullified ultimately to the ultimate will of God. So they are merely, it's like all of the mitzvahs, basically, they are important, but they're only important insofar as them being a manifestation of God's will. So ultimately, when we think of the mitzvahs, they ultimately are nothing but God's will. That's really what essentially they are. So let's get into the text and see how the Alter Rebbe explains it. So he says, and this is why, continuing from last time, these mitzvahs, these 248 mitzvahs, are called the limbs of the king, by way of metaphor, because just like the limbs of a person in the body of a man are a garment for his soul, and are totally subservient, totally nullified to the soul. Because as soon as it arises within a person's will to reach out his hand or his leg, they listen immediately to this without any kind of commandment from outside and without any hesitation at all. But it's actually immediate. It's an immediate thing. As soon as a person has a will to do a certain thing, to move their hand in a certain way, to move their leg in a certain way, it responds immediately. So too, by way of analogy, this is how the vitality of the action of the mitzvahs and their existence is totally nullified completely to the supernal will, which is vested within it. And it becomes, and these mitzvahs become like for the will of God, just like a body for a soul. So that's the end of the entry. So just to, again, little kind of like encapsulate this, is basically what we're saying is just like our limbs act as a garment by which we can perform our will and actualize things we need to do. And it's an immediate thing and they're nullified to our will. So too, can we think of as the mitzvahs, Hashem's commandments, as being the body for the neshama, for the soul of God, which is ultimately his will, because these are ultimately the manifestations of his will. And they are the way by which, they're the garments by which Hashem's will can come into the world. So I hope that made sense. And we're going to continue along this theme tomorrow, and I will speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.